Word about the game, Benny, because it was, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, whether or not it was a 6-pointer. I mean, it was a massive game. I personally think Leicester, anyway, have got way too much to go down. Yeah. I know we've said it before. I remember that West Ham side that just had an abundance of talent and they went down.
Is that what Joe Cole was there and all them?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Canute, Joe Cole,
it's everyone's ridiculous side. But I just look at Leicester, I look at the players that they've got, and the manager. Brendan's better than they are at the moment. And I thought it was a real important win. It was one of those where they could have easily not given up, but
I would have feared for them for their survival, but when you look at the form that Forest are on going into that game, they'd lost their last 4 and conceded a lot of goals. And as you just said there, when you look at Leicester and what they've got in the final third, the likes of Vardy, he looked like he was getting back to his kind of sharp self. Tillemans is a good player. Harvey Barnes, Maddison. They've got Patson Daka coming off the bench. They've got players that can hurt anybody in the Premier League. So I thought they'd always go past. I didn't think it'd be as convincing as it was, but I knew they'd get past Nottingham Forest. But of course, the stand-up man is Maddison again.
Yeah, let's talk about him actually. And following that 4-0 win over Nottingham Forest, which was live on talkSPORT last night, the Leicester boss Brendan Rodgers admitted he was surprised that James Maddison wasn't called up to England.
James has shown and proven that he's up there with the best talents, and to have someone like that, even if he doesn't play, to have someone like him on the bench that can come off the bench and bring that personality, he's a game changer. It's tough because there's so many good players, but I put him up there with, I have a big respect for young guys like Mason Mount, who's a top player. Phil Foden, you've seen, he's an amazing player. He's at that level. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And like I said, I would only hope that between now and when the squad is picked, that they somehow can find a way to put a talent like that. I really hope that Gareth can take a look at that for him.
We'll talk about that in just a sec, but a bit breaking news this afternoon. Rotherham have appointed Matty Taylor as their new manager after agreeing compensation with Exeter. So Rotherham have got a new manager, that's Matty Taylor. Listen, one of the things that we just heard from Brendan there was talking about James Maddison is at that level when he's being compared to the players like Saka, Foden, Mason Mount and so on. I mean, I totally agree. He's at least at that level. Yeah. Right? And the problem's going to be how you fit him into the starting lineup. But I don't think that's the question we should be asking. The question is he good enough to be in the England squad to offer Gareth Southgate options throughout the tournament?
100%. You're right. Because when you start looking at formations and how you fit him in, I think it's almost like when people start talking about, the formation and how you just squeeze him in, it's like they're looking for reasons not to pick him. But he's a good enough player and his form has been outstanding that he just deserves to be in the squad. Because as you said, what he's done the last couple of seasons has been fantastic. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people point fingers at Mason Mount and sometimes it's a little bit unfair because I remember when Mason Mount was playing for England and Grealish wasn't getting a look in, a lot of people were saying, well, it's because Mason Mount's Gareth Southgate's son. Do you remember that when and he couldn't get a run? But last season, can I
just point out he's not?
No, okay. But last season, Mason Mount was brilliant. 11 goals and 10 assists. That was his best since he was at Vitesse. And that was, I think, in 2017-18. So that was his best season up until date. But James Maddison last season, 12 goals, 8 assists. And it's his all-round game as well. He's creating opportunities. He's working really hard. I mean, set plays, we talk about Trent Alexander and James Ward-Prowse. James Maddison's up there when it comes to a dead ball, whether it be a cross, free kick or a shot, a goal. He is up there. And when you try and compare his stats to some of the other people that he's up against, he's at the very, very top. Since the start of last season, he's got 17 goals. No one's got more than that. Saka, Foden, Bowen, Mount, Sancho, Grealish. He's got 10 assists. Only Bukayo Saka's got more than him. I mean, he is up there in every stats-wise, in every single category. He is up the very top.
And also more so, I don't know, but you've played in a side that's been floating with relegation, right? So for him to just stand out from everyone else when his team can't buy a win. You've got to remember that win last night was their first win of the season.
Massive.
So for him to be playing as well as he's playing in a team that is constantly losing, that must tell you something else about him.
It does, mentality, because he's not throwing the towel in. A lot of people in that scenario would, when they're one of the better players in the side and the side's struggling for form and it looks like they're losing every single game, their thought process is like, all right, how do I get out of this football club as quick as possible? I'm going to put performances in where, not even put performances in, but you're a little bit like, well, it's not my fault, it's their fault. So you kind of down tools a little bit and just think, right, how am I going to get myself out of there? Whereas you look at James Maddison, he's almost like, no, I know this squad is good enough to be, well, certainly where it is now, it's better than being in the bottom three. We are so much better than that. So I'm going to keep putting performances in and hopefully things will change. And he's not throwing the towel in. Every single week he's stepping out there, he's scoring goals, he's creating. I mean, he got 2 great goals last night. I mean, the first was a bit fortunate, but even the pass for Daka sets up his goal as well. I mean, he is playing at the very, very top of his game. And if Gareth Southgate chooses not to take him, I need to know why, because it's not. It can't be based on form, and it can't be based on misdemeanors off the pitch, because he's already let people with misdemeanors back into the squad.
It's funny you said it, because when I knew we were going to talk about James Maddison, I text someone that is massively involved with the England setup, right, and knows James Maddison as well, and knows everything that's going on off the pitch. And I said to this person, "We're going to talk about James Maddison. Is there anything I need to know before I go on air and go? He should be doing." Even just listen, just be careful, because he said there's nothing that James Maddison has done that we don't know about. Everything is above, he's a good guy. He's got a wife and a kid as well, and everything's going really well in his life. There's not a reason he's not been picked by Gareth Southgate, other than Southgate for some reason doesn't fancy him, and that I find quite a worry and quite astonishing.
Well, listen, we've spoke about Gareth Southgate before, and when you look at where he plays number 10, he can operate wide. You kind of put him up against the likes of Saka, Foden, Bowen, Mount, Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish, and Marcus Rashford, who's not on this list. On that list there, the only player I would say you'd hold your hands up and go, who's playing better than him right now, would be Phil Foden. I think he's probably on equal set. And listen, I love Saka. You know I love him. But they're probably on similar level. Saka's playing really well for the team that currently sit top of the Premier League. But other than that, he's playing better than Bowen. Bowen's struggled this season. He's been better than Mount. Sancho can't seem to get a bit of consistency. Jack, last 2 appearances, has been better. But Maddison's better. And Rashford looks like he's getting better, but you wouldn't put him ahead of Maddison. So you'd have to say only Phil Foden outright is playing better than he is right now.
Does fan power count for anything? Is the fact that you, me, everyone you speak to in the media, we saw Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville last night on the television, everyone's singing his praises, saying he should be in the England squad. Can that go against the player? Can Gareth Southgate be, well, listen, you carry on and I'm not going to pick him? Does that come into it? I know it's quite childish to suggest that, but I just wonder.
Do you know what? There might be a little bit of that, but it depends. If he continues at this vein and the likes of Mason Mount continues to struggle, I don't know, Jared Bowen continues to struggle, Sancho continues to struggle, then all of a sudden Gareth Southgate's to be left in a scenario where, do I simply just pick these players because I know them and I trust them, but they haven't played well for the last 6-7 weeks?
Which we know he does.
Yes. Or do I pick someone who's in the middle of the season, is playing better than anyone, is up there right at the very, very top? Can I really afford to ignore that? So I think he might be forced into a situation where he has to pick him.
Does it make any difference that he wasn't called up into the last squad? I think he's got 1 cap for England. He came on as a sub.
I'm pretty sure he assisted in that game as well for Tammy Abraham.
Okay.
When he came on for England.
We played
at Wembley, that was.
Montenegro, beat 7-0,
I'm pretty sure he assisted the goal.
Does it make a difference that he's only played that 1 game for England?
No, because I think at times, Gareth, you can't be too safe. We're going to a World Cup. I get it. You want players that have had international experience, but when you've got someone who's playing as well as he is, and it's there for everybody to see, you can't just be stubborn and go, well, I'm still going to go the safe option. Like, you don't have to pick 5 or 6 options where we don't quite know. You can have 1 or 2 in the squad, and I think he deserves to be one of them.
Okay, I agree with you. I want to hear from you. We're talking James Maddison. We'll talk a bit Leicester as well, and we'll chuck Nottingham Forest in there. We've not even spoke about Steve Cooper, so we'll do that in just a moment. I would also like to hear if anyone out there thinks that James Maddison isn't right for England, because I, for the life of me, don't think there's anyone on the planet that thinks that.
Oh, no, you'll get a couple.
Okay, well, if that's you, I want to find out why.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.